I am so excited to be here today. I have been up since really early this morning working on Hack Mankind and all the hacks that we can be providing for you. And one of the things I always love is my Sunday calls with Dr. Clint G. Rogers. Hi, Clint.
Hey, namaste. Welcome, welcome, everybody. So happy to see you. So happy to see you, Jessica.
Happy to see you too. And I know you have a ton of news, and it feels like the week has been gone by. So, you know, they say when you have fun, it goes by real quick. It feels like yesterday that we were just talking. I can't believe it was already a week. I'm like, oh my goodness, it goes by so fast. And so that's
Can't believe it either.
Right? It goes by fast. I really love what we're doing here at Hack Mankind. And for those just tuning in and just coming on the Facebook group, I really definitely recommend that you head on over to www.hackmankind.com. We are doing extraordinary things, and I don't take that lightly. I've been in this environment for many years, and even before I was even born, my father was too. And I am so certain that with Hack Mankind, we are helping dispel fear and confront fear, really, and misinformation head on. And we're here to provide you with tools and hacks to really support you in creating more hope, opportunity, and clarity on what it is that you want to create and have that happen in your life, especially during this time. And today's today's subject is spirituality. And I'm going to start, you know, we started this a few weeks ago when we first started our calls, Clint. But I feel like I'd like to touch base on that again. What is spirituality? Is this like woo-hoo kind of thing? Or is it pretty, because, you know, you are pretty, like you're saying in your book says like a non-believer or a skeptic. I can never say that word. And so what is it for you? What do you think?
I was just going to ask you the same thing. What is this? What is spirituality? What is this call all about? I wanted to know from you what it means. Oh man. What does spirituality mean to you?
That's an excellent question. I think it means something different to everyone, honestly. And what I really love about what you share and your openness is that there's no judgment. I mean, that's my hallucination, is when you come on these calls, Clint, is there's no judgment, there's no preconceptions, there's ideas, there's things that have worked for you, there's teachings that you've learned, that you've applied, that you've seen or haven't seen, and there's things that you feel is right, and there's really no judgment and no preconceived idea of what is spirituality. That's my honest hallucination. And for me, I am given the ability to believe or to be spiritual in my own way. And that is to personally to be connected to myself, to be love, to search truth. And then so many other facets. I mean, I see spirituality in walking down the street, making someone smile, or meditating, or even in other areas that some may not see spirituality in. So I know that's a pretty vague idea. That's why we have you, Clint. What do you think?
I'm curious what anyone else on the call right now thinks. I know there's some people in the Zoom, some people watching on Facebook. I just want to say you're so happy that you're here. And I want this to be even more interactive, where this time on this call, I want to hear more from you. And I want to hear it's such a great question. What is spirituality? You're coming to a call on spirituality for some reason. What brought you here? Like, what made you show up here? And why, what do you want to gain from this precious hour of our lives, or 45 minutes, or however much it is that we have together? What would you most like to gain from this time? So in the comments, or on Facebook, or on the Zoom, you just leave a comment. What do you want to gain? And what are your questions? We definitely want to hear from you. I want to know. I like the quote. I don't even remember who originally said it. I've heard so many other people say it, but that we're not physical beings having a spiritual experience, but we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. Have you heard that before, Jessica?
I have. Can you tell me what that means for you?
Well, for me, I think it means that everything, like our essence, is spiritual, and even the physical, like having a physical experience is an element of spirituality. So in that kind of sense, what is spirituality? If you believe that quote, then you'll believe everything is spiritual. Everything surrounding, we can't get away from it. But then the question is, what does that mean? What is spirituality? And that's a really good question.
Oh my
I
goodness,
don't
it
know. I
came
don't
to
have a
the
clue. What is it?
word spirit, uality. I don't know what uality is. Is U-R-T? I don't know. I'm totally not a language expert, but spirit, it is like it's spirit having a human experience. And you've mentioned that on other calls where we're all interconnected to something higher. There's something, whatever it is, at least there is something, and you've had that experience. And if you don't believe it, try some things and see if it could be where it is that you feel that experience. And that for me it resonates deeply. I am a spiritual being having a human experience. And then I separate the body, what's happening out there, to my higher self.
What have been some of your most meaningful spiritual experiences, Jessica? Like, what's one spiritual experience? Because maybe that would help us figure out what spirituality means. Like, when you think of a spiritual experience, what do you think of? What comes to you?
I have a few. I would say human connection is definitely one of them. So feeling deeply connected to someone else is a spiritual experience. And also, I have one. I was on stage, and it was my first few workshops, so I was a newbie. And because my dad had such a following, it was, I take that back. I got a lot of people who are in the environment that showed up, and people that are older than me, people who have more experience. And at the time, I had never been married. I didn't have, I was young. I was in my early 20s. And this lady, I do my workshop that I've been taught to. I was certified to do it, and I do my workshop. And at one moment, this lady stands up and she says, yeah, my biggest challenge is my relationship and my husband, and there was some physical abuse there. Like, it was deep stuff. And I went to the, oh, shoot, what do I do now moment. And I had a reminder of one of my mentors who told me, if you get yourself out of the way, you will know. You will be guided. And I never knew what she meant, but that showed up in my head, like, you will be guided. And I just let go. I completely let go of ego, of like, I need to show that I know what I'm doing because I'm on stage and I'm supposed to be the person on stage that knows what she's doing. And I completely let the ego off, and I let myself be guided. And it was something so simple. I got off stage. I walked over to that person. I gave her a hug. She burst like deep into tears. And then she started opening up more and saying more things. And as soon as she started saying more things, I knew what to say. Like I was like, all right, I know this. Like, I know how to answer this. I've studied this. I know how to help her. But at that moment, I didn't. I had no idea what to do. So I followed spirit. So I had a deeply spiritual experience right there. And then it was not me living that moment. It was not my body self. It was my spirit self.
Wow, so powerful.
How about you?
So from that experience, what would you say is spirituality? If this is one of the things that comes to you as a spiritual experience, what is spirituality then? Connection with your higher self, your divine self?
Yeah.
The part of you that knows?
Let's say truth.
Connection with truth? That's what spirituality is to you?
If I think of other moments, Like even in intimate moments, I find that can be a very spiritual experience. And I wouldn't say I'm guided then, but I definitely deep connection to truth and to source, or whatever that means. But yeah.
And both of the, both of the things you shared that had to do with surrender, you know, like both in the stage experience, you let go, you surrender.
Oh my goodness, that's so true.
And then also in intimacy, oftentimes that's why it's such a blissful experience, is because you lose track of self, you know.
Wow, that is so true. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, I think for me, yeah, I think about different spiritual experiences I had, and usually it's where I know I was clearly guided beyond what my knowing would have access to, you know, or I have some experience beyond what I felt like, I don't know, I was capable of. Most of the times it happens when I'm surrendering or asking for help. Yeah, but it's interesting because I'm thinking about, you know, you mentioned being a skeptic. So anyone who is maybe skeptical of spiritual experiences being real, I don't think there's many. I don't know. Am I naive? I don't think there's many people that are skeptical of spiritual experiences. I think there's like a majority of population on the planet believes in something, some higher power, some
You
higher
know,
force.
you'd be surprised. I've encountered a few people where they're like, no, it's just coincidence.
Mm,
It's coincidence. All that stuff is not real.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And and for me, it's like if it makes you happy, at the end of the day, it's for me that's that. And we've had some comments coming on, Clint, so I'd love to share them with you and see what you feel.
Please.
Diana says, spirituality to me means to believe in a higher power or force. However, humans are not able to define or grasp it because they are limited, almost like we could not comprehend infinity. It is the name we attach to something that is indefinable, but it is there because we can feel its presence. Beautiful.
Beautiful, Diana.
And then we also have Musa says, to me, spirituality is realizing the divinity within myself and learning to live in it every moment. And then Gina, hi Gina, living the truth of the soul, not the body and mind, a higher knowing, a higher power.
I like those. Amruta and Judy, you said? Beautiful.
Gina, yeah, Gina's but on with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for those tuning in. I see that quite a few of you are tuned in on Facebook. Please make sure to go ahead on over after this call to www.hackmankind.com and have backstage access to ask all your questions and stay connected. We won't be broadcasting these as much on Facebook anymore starting next week or the week after. I need to double check. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here. And I want to make sure that you have access. All you need to do is just submit your email on www.hackmankind.com. So on that note, do you want to add something else, Clint, on?
Yeah, I do actually. How did you know?
I didn't. I guess it's my spirit self.
What I want to do is I wanted to ask you a question because let's say, for instance, Amruta's beautiful definition, really, spirituality is seeing the divine in you. Can you read that one more time? I just want to hear that one more time.
Yes. To me, spirituality is realizing the divinity within myself and learning to live in every moment.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So so it kind of, does that resonate with what you were saying about your experiences too? Like when you had a spiritual experience, you were connected with divinity in you or something like that. Does that feel right? Or
Personally, it feels right within myself and within, for me, it's like I'm connected with both those experiences or other experiences I can think of. I would say is connected to the divine within myself and someone else or somewhere else. So it could be like right now we could be connected to each other's divine and or connected to a divine that like is just I don't see or I can't attribute to anything personally.
Yeah.
That's my truth.
You know, one really fun part of this, the game we've been playing to see more miracles, at first we did a 30-day game or experiment to see, let's apply certain principles and let's see if that results in seeing more mystical miracles of love, of healing in our life. And one of the key ones in that is along the lines of that. It's actually, it's a principle that Dr. Ram talked about in this book, Ancient Secrets of a Master Healer. He taught me a principle called Atiti Devo Bhava. Have you ever heard of this before? Did I mention it before in previous calls? Atiti Devo Bhava. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. I think someone told me. Yeah, Atiti Devo Bhava. And what it means is that you treat the unexpected guest as if God or goddess himself or herself has come to visit you. Really what it's doing is honoring the divine in you and the divine in everything that's showing up in your life. And so one of the divine manifestations of Aditi Devo Bhava is actually laying on the floor right over here. I don't know if you can see Milo still over here. I told you that story. Did I share that story with you before?
Yeah, well, you said he just showed up.
Yeah, one of the darkest, actually at Milo, and that's why we ended up calling him Milo. At Milo, when it was darkest and I felt like so discouraged, it was the day after. So this whole 10 years I've been traveling with this master healer, Dr. Ram. Unexpectedly, he passed away on February 19th of this year. Like just right about when the book was about to launch. So many things were leading up to this moment, then all of a sudden he was gone. Like the week before that, we had just gone through a big conversation about here are the 27 main challenges that planet Earth, people on planet Earth are gonna face. Like these things are gonna happen. And one of them, he talked about even the pandemic that was coming. He talked about other things that are coming. And he lined them all out, and then we looked at how these ancient secrets can help meet all of those big challenges. So a big one is, for instance, hormonal imbalance. Like a lot of hormonal imbalance is gonna come. Lots of addiction to technology. Anyway, so he went through 27 things like this. And then I was thinking at the end of it, I'm so glad that he's on this planet. I'm so glad these ancient secrets are here. I just felt safer knowing he was here and could help guide through a lot of the complicated things that we're gonna face. And then when he died, I remember I just felt so lost. I felt so lost. And the morning after the prayer service, I woke up and I just had to get out of bed, 5:30 a.m., still dark. I just had to move my body. So I went walking outside this area. After about 15, 20 minutes, I looked around and like, what? Someone's behind me, but I couldn't see. I looked down and there's this dog following me. I've never met him before, ever. But he's just following me. So I stop, I look at him, he looks at me. I'm like, this is so weird. And then all of a sudden I remember that secret, Atiti Devo Bhava. Everywhere Dr. Ram would always have biscuits to give dogs. And because in India, like kids will knock on the window at the stop sign, homeless kids, stoplights. So he would always have food to give or some money to give. He'd always give. Any unexpected guest, he treated as if God was visiting and asking for something. And yeah, you want to help God when God asks, you know? So he always had something to give, any animal. So I thought, I was still in the midst of my sadness, this depression, this like overwhelming sense of loss. But I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. This is happening right now. It triggered that thought, that memory of that principle. And so I thought, okay, let me try and feed this dog. So I walked when the sun came up, the shop open, I got some food, put it on the ground. He didn't eat it. I'm like, what does he want? So he didn't want food. My hands are empty. I'm still walking around. He's following me everywhere. Like for an hour, I'm walking all around the streets. He doesn't leave my side. He follows me everywhere. Finally, I'm like, this is too crazy. Like, what's happening? You know, so I finally brought him to Dr. Ram's son's house, Krishna. And I said, do you have any dog food? And they said, yeah, please get the dog food. As I gave him the food, he liked eating dog food. And as he was eating, me and Krishna started talking about this principle, Atiti Devo Bhava, and other secrets that we'd learned from Dr. Ram were just kind of flooding into us. All of a sudden, the sadness just melted in the sense of awe, like a it was a mystical miracle. And why did this dog show up just at that moment, follow me around for an hour, and then spark all these memories of all these secrets about how do you live your life in a way that, you know, you actually can find fulfillment in it. So it's a non-toxic way of living your life. So you have physical, mental, emotional peace and energy and vibrancy. And so after that, then I was like, I won't tell the whole story because it's a long story, but in essence, I didn't know what to do with him at the night. So at the night, I tried to think, what do? I put a blanket outside my door, he wouldn't stay. I put a blanket downstairs, he wouldn't stay. Anytime I tried to shut the door, and he would just whine and bark until I opened the door. So I'm like, oh, but I feel weird leaving this street dog, you know, bringing the street dog in the home. I didn't know what he would do, but I'm like, okay, I guess it's like full surrender. Worst case scenario, maybe he'll scratch furniture or chew a shoe or something, I don't know, or pee on the floor and then I clean it. I don't know. I didn't know. But I brought him in. He just was so polite everywhere. He didn't do anything naughty. I mean, he has since then done some naughty stuff, but at that point he didn't do it naughty. But I tried to shut my door so I could go to sleep, and he wouldn't allow me to sleep. The only way he would sleep is if he was laying right next to my bed and if my hand was on his head. You know, it's like, I don't know, but just the love, unconditional love of this dog that just showed up. I called him Miracle Milo. Like, it was a real miracle in my life because I couldn't hold on to my sadness. I couldn't hold on to my depression. When I lived this principle at Diti Devabhawa, this dog showed up. So many mystical things happened around it. So many mystical things. I brought him to the clinic where Dr. Ram would sit for like over 30 years. He went straight up to Dr. Ram's office, waited for his staff to open the door, went in, looked straight at the picture and sat down right in front of his desk. The staff at the clinic had like tears, like thinking, what is this mystical miracle? Staff from all over wanted to come see what's happening. You know, why is this dog? What is happening with this dog? Finally, when all the staff left, I was sitting there with my friend who was visiting from USA, and Milo. We shut the door and we just closed our eyes to meditate. And at that time, I just remembered the first time ever I was in that room 10 years ago, when I first came to India and first met Dr. Naram. And I remembered a conversation that he had shared with me. And I just remembered, you know, lots of these sacred moments where my whole life has changed since then. You know, so much about it, who I am and who I think I am has changed since then. But this Aditi Devavawa, this mystical visitor, so now for the last 2 months, he's been with me, as you can see. Now he's just still a part of my life. But not only that, I did some Facebook Lives while I was even all along the journey. He started, thousands of people around the world had beautiful experiences when they learned this principle of honoring the divine in you and honoring the divine in whatever unexpected guest shows up. So that's why we started that first 30-day miracle experiment. And people started doing this, and they started popping into such blissful states. They started to see that everything is a miracle. Everything is a miracle. You know, at first, one of the women from the Netherlands, she's like, I was so mad. Everyone else is having miracles. I'm not having any miracles. She woke up the next morning and she's like, all of a sudden something changed. And she started to see actually everything is a miracle, you know? And she's been like that ever since for the last month and a half. Many people have had dreams or experiences, mystical experiences. But the trickiest thing is sometimes the unexpected guest is one that you don't want. Like when we're doing the experiment, on one of the first days, I'm like teaching people to practice this. I'm laying on my bed, my head is on the pillow, and I feel this thing scurry past, like brush past my hair. I'm like, ugh. I look and there's this rat. I'm like, oh no, why, God, are you doing this to me? Before, I wouldn't sleep in a room if I knew there's a rat there, because I don't know where they're gonna go, what's gonna happen. Like, I'm just like, why this? Like, seems like somehow, like, I'm gonna say God knew that this was like, I don't know. I didn't want to see this unexpected guest as God. I felt like I wanted, like, I'm happy, like, I don't know. But then I thought, okay, if I'm going to live this experiment, I really have to live it. So instead of putting out a trap to kill it or trying to like scurry it out the window, instead I said, okay, I'm going to put food for it. So I'm going to treat this unexpected guest as if God came. And so I did that. I just put food out
So
for
do
this
you
rat.
have a pet rat?
No, actually, he found another home eventually.
Okay.
But for a while, we just shared this home. And I would put food out for him. And he was nice, and I was nice. And then after a while, he found his own home somewhere else.
That is
But yeah.
interesting. So there's something that's coming up for me because that just gave me like I just visualized the rat in my hair. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no. And I'm having a hard time. I'm gonna admit I'm having a hard time. And my first reaction to that was, yeah, well, it could be God just telling me that I need to leave, or I need to lure the rat elsewhere because it's not good for him to be here. This is, to each our own territory. And so like I automatically went into building this story of like, yes, it's either a sign that I need to leave or a sign that I need to help the rat leave. And then it brought me to another thing. Like if we think about the rat, what about people that come into our life that do harm, right? I'm not saying they're intrinsically bad. I don't believe that personally. My hallucination is we're all intrinsically good, like we're born good. And then certain things happen and concepts and circumstances happen that then become whatever we become. And so some people are abusive physically. Some people are emotionally abusive to others, and commit crimes. And so having somebody like that come into your life, are you saying also feed them and like you did with the rat? Like that's what my mind went there. Like if somebody in my home, I'm so grateful I've never been physically abused, like beaten up and things like that, but I know of people who have.
Yeah, let me give you an example. This is amazing. So also when I'm doing this experiment, like there's a little path from this place that I stay where I have to go through this path. And all the time it's surrounded by these angry dogs. And at one time they had bit Milo and I was so angry, like physically injured him, like bit him. And I'm thinking, so the only thing I knew to do is reach down towards the ground, pretend like I'm picking up a rock, and then they scurry. In certain cases, they were really aggressive. So I had to actually pick up a rock and threaten to throw it at him. And I'm like, this doesn't feel like a DT Devil Bala. But if Milo, if I'm really living this thing, like, and I'm just gonna say for 30 days, I do an experiment. It's just a game. You play this game and you see what happens. So for 30 days, if I do this experiment, then what happens? So I just says, I didn't know what to do. So I put it out to the group, the 250 people at the time that were participating. I said, what do I do? Actually, I even did a Facebook Live where all the dogs were barking. It's scary when they're lunging at you with their teeth. They're barking and they're like, sometimes they run after you and like lunge at you, and even at me, sometimes they're doing it. So I'm like, what do I do? And this beautiful group who is looking at how do you do this, they started listing out all these things I could do. And so first of all, one thing they said is go out and instead of looking at it like a pack of dogs, look at each one individually and learn about each one. And go sometime without Milo and see. So when I went by myself, they didn't bark. But for some reason, when there's another dog, there's like territory or something. I don't know. So I just went out by myself one time. I tried to feed them. They didn't really want it. But I just looked at each dog and I tried to know the dogs. Instead of like have it just be a pack of dogs that's angry and that I'm just not liking the experience of, So I just learned each one. And then another group member had this suggestion. She said, because one time I tried to document how angry they were, but as I was speaking, they weren't as angry. And she's like, maybe there's something about your voice that's soothing them. So she suggested, why don't you sing or talk as you're passing through? And so I sang Bob Marley. And I did this experiment again on Facebook Live where I sang Three Little Birds. So here we are, Milo and I were walking through in the morning. I'm like, okay, this is the experiment I'm doing. And I started singing, woke up this morning, smiled at the rising sun, three little birds on my doorstep, singing sweet song a melody pure and true, singing, this is my message for you. Ooh, ooh. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be all right. So I sang this whole thing, and as I'm walking through, the dogs basically, they get up, they sniff a little bit, but they don't do anything. And by the time I get down the hill, I just laughed. I'm like, oh, it worked. It's like sometimes we just aren't creative. And think about, if you really live this principle that everything is divine, everything is a manifestation of God, and if you really believe life is happening to you and not, I mean, life is happening for you and not to you, that means whatever unexpected guest, there's something that it's some gift that unexpected guest is bringing you. Maybe it's your child that's annoying you, or maybe it's your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend that's interrupting something, or maybe they're having an emotional thing, it triggers something in you. Maybe it's an emotion that's coming, and at first you're trying to repress it or resist it. But that's an unexpected guest. And really, I think that those unexpected guests, when we were living this during that experiment, and then now in the global healing miracle experiment, as people are living this, it's crazy, like cool stuff happens. Mystical miracles happen. Like this dog, Milo, is an evidence of that principle in my life. I don't think I would have completed and gotten ready to launch this book without this miracle happening. And then as a result, so many miracles happening now. I told you last time, now it's being translated into 29 languages. Wow. By people just out of pure love. I just got the first covers that were in Japanese and Italian, and looking at them was amazing. But second of all, knowing it's done out of pure love, I don't know of a book on planet Earth that before it's published is being translated into 29 languages by volunteers out of love. One of the volunteers on the call yesterday said, this is a new model for being. She's like, this is amazing. Does anyone else see that this is incredible what's happening? We're all showing up and we're being guided by love. That's it. And there's not an agenda in that ultimately we're setting traps for people to make some purchase or do something, like this is purely a gift for humanity, and that people can benefit from it. And that even the people it's amazing for me too, because I usually do everything on my own. Like I'm much more lone wolf or whatever you want to call it. But I can't do it all. And so as I had to hand things off, the thing that amazed me is that people, like even I just got a beautiful message 2 days ago from the woman who's coordinating the whole translation effort. She's like, I can't thank you enough for letting me be a part of this. It's something I've always wanted to do in my life, to work with people who are so lovely. I mean, her burden is so much. She's answering hundreds of emails, coordinating 29 languages, translating, same time doing so much. And she's thanking me for being a part of this, because finally she's associated with people that are so lovely. So when I think about that, I'm like, wow, what else is possible for humans as we live Atiti Devo Bhava and as we're guided by love? So now as we get into it, according to me, spirituality is that. It's seeing the divine in you and in everything around you and being guided by love. I think inevitably you're going to see miracles happen. And yeah, there's going to be some friction because we're not perfect. I mean, we are and we're not. But there's something inside of us that doesn't see the perfection yet. And so something is going to come against that until you can forgive yourself for anything that's not, anything that doesn't seem perfect. I think that evolution is inevitable. And as humanity, we're one organism in a way. And it's coming. And it's beautiful. And it's hard. It's like a death of an old way of knowing. Like for me, oh man, even this week, I had to go through some like letting go of conceptions of who I thought I was. And it's tough. It's really tough. Like this week it happened. After last week we talked about it, it happened again this week. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to give that up too, but then I just have to trust and surrender, like, okay, all right. Yeah. How about for you, Jessica, when you think about unexpected guests coming in your life and them being actually manifestation of divinity, like, can you think of examples of that? Like some mystical experiences that something didn't seem like, first it didn't seem like it was like a very welcome guest, but then ultimately you saw, wow, that was one of the biggest gifts.
Oh, a guest that wasn't there. So for those who know me a little bit, I'm very, um, especially at events and where I meet people, I'm very bubbly and I'm like, hey, friends. So I'm very welcoming to a lot of people in my life. And yeah, I guess I can't think someone in specific. So while I'm searching for that in my head, I think one of the things I've learned, you know, I have the tendency of welcoming. So doing that, and sometimes certain people are not, so maybe my hallucination not serving or not aligned with my values, or can be doing some, I don't want to be putting too much labels on it, but it's just I should be. So my gift in that, my experience, my learning in it has been to learn my truth and how to talk my truth. So we talked about this on other calls, and you know, like the power of knowing how to say no. Because when somebody says no, knows how to say no, you know, when they say yes, it's a hell yes. And so that's been an interesting learning experience of things didn't feel good, and so learning to say no. So that was a great gift. I don't know if that relates to what your question is. That's been
Yeah.
some lately, definitely more than the other way of welcoming people, because I've never really been that closed off.
Beautiful. You're open-hearted. You're following your guidance.
Yes, I'd say that. And when guidance showed up to let go of certain things and or certain people, I had a hard time. It's a lot easier now with practice and being okay with that. Saying, you know, you can love someone and something or some circumstance or whatever it is, you can love that and not want it in your day-to-day life, or not want that person in your life, right?
Yeah. So beautiful. You know, I'm tempted to share a mystical miracle that I've never shared publicly before.
Please
But
do.
before that, I want to see, does anyone have any questions that's watching? I'd love to get any questions you have.
We have a ton
So
of
anyone,
comments coming in, not as much questions, so please share your questions. But we have incredible, Gina says, you know, it's my favorite kind of conversation. Spiritual knowing is so important. I'm here to experience magnificence, the divine in myself and everyone. And she loved the story about the story you were telling about Milo. And then Giovanni, Ganesha came to bless you. We have a ton of amazing comments. Thank you, Gina, so much for your comments. And thank you for joining us, Adam, Yvonne. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please add any questions you have on. So yes, tell us while those questions are coming in. I know there's a little bit of delay on the video. Can you share that divine experience with us?
yes. So 2 Sundays ago, there was we had this global healing miracle experiment call, and the day after was May 4th, was Dr. Naram's birthday actually, and we're gonna have this big event, lots of Bollywood stars participating. Jackie Ninga Canfield came on, so many people that actually were written about in the book, and other people that love Dr. Naram, and we call it Miracle May, a Miracle May celebration of life. And the same day, I was gonna launch and announce the book, the release of this book. I was just going to make an announcement that it will be released. So the call ended on Sunday night, and I had about an hour between the time the call finished, where we're talking about this mystical miracles, and people are sharing such cool stuff. And Milo, at the same time, was being so, he was like being so naughty. Like he was growling. He first time ever I saw him grab a cushion and like in his teeth, like whipping it around, where I'm trying to talk, like I'm trying to like focus on talking about these miracles. At the same time, here's someone that I know is a miracle in my life, but I'm like, what's going on? You know, like it was so hard to handle. Like I had so much energy going here, and I'm like, this is not working. And like, I can't just like yell at him because I would look really bad. Like, yelling at this miracle. You know, I would do it totally not living it. I'm like so flustered. And finally he calmed down, and I realized, oh, I didn't feed him or walk him. Like in my world, I was so focused on doing something that I neglected like this gift that's really in many ways saved my life and touched so many lives. So I fed him, and then I went walking. In this area, I've been living on and off for 10 years. And I had never before seen any monkeys until the day before, where first time I saw monkeys. And I'm like, this is such an unexpected guest. So have you ever heard of Hanuman, Jessica? I don't know if you've ever heard of Hanuman.
Oh.
So Hanuman, in India, there's so many gods and goddesses. I like it. Someone says that, I used to say, how do you believe God is like an elephant head, or that it's blue? You know, it was hard for me to even conceptualize. And someone explained it to me this way, that God is beyond mind. And so by having all these different forms and shapes of God, it pushes you beyond logic. So you go into the world of beyond mind. Anyway, there was a temple in Nepal, Kathmandu, called Swayambhu Temple. And they call it the monkey temple because so many monkeys are there. That's where Dr. Ram first started learning from his master. Actually, this picture is taken there at Swayambhu, at the monkey temple. This is Dr. Ram and his master, Baba Ramdas. So Dr. Ram took me there. And I decided to put this book up just to take some pictures of it because it's so beautiful architecture, and we're at that place. All of a sudden, I saw this monkey start coming over. And this monkey just kind of peeking at the book like this. I don't know if you can see the pictures. So he's peeking at the book. He gets closer. And then all of a sudden, he picks up the book. He picked it up. He picked it up with his feet. I don't know if you can see, but the monkey doesn't even have any hands. Picked it up with his. It was crazy. The next day, and so I'm just taking pictures thinking, this is awesome. The monkey's holding the book. The next day, the caretaker of those monkeys is an Agori master. His name is Koviraj. He is also named by Ganendra. I just, for fun, I said, can I show you something so fun that happened? And I'm flipping through my phone, showing him the pictures, and his mouth drops. He didn't talk for a good solid 2-3 minutes, which is a long time when you're having a conversation and suddenly someone stops talking. I'm like, and then finally when he speaks, he says, when did this happen? I was like, what do you mean? It just happened yesterday when we were at the monkey temple. He's like, this is amazing. This is a miracle. He's like, you got a miracle. He's like, I know these monkeys. They consider him the tantric leader of all the monkeys. They always recognize him because he didn't have hands. And yesterday, he didn't see him anywhere. So they always bring special food for this monkey, and he didn't see him anywhere. He's like, this is amazing. He's like, you got a miracle. This is a miracle. He's like, this is a blessing of Hanuman. This monkey's a representation of Hanuman. According to this ancient tradition of this particular, system, Hanuman is about protection. So it's the aspect of divinity that protects you. It's also an aspect of divinity that's playful, but it helps remove obstacles. So according to this Agori, whoever has this book, even if they have it in their home, even if they don't read it, they just keep it in their home, they're going to have blessing of protection, removing obstacles. They're going to have more playfulness in their life. Like he was saying, Hanuman has blessed this. He's like, you don't need any other endorsements. God endorsed it, Anyway,
Wow.
so again, like as a skeptic, I didn't know how to make sense of that. According to me, I don't really know Hanuman. I know who they think he is, and I know that, but I don't have a personal connection. But I just love that whole story, and I love that. Anyway, so fast forward, it's the night before I'm going to announce the book launch. Wow, I'm getting emotional. It's the night before the book launch, and in this area in which I have never seen monkeys, I take Milo out because he's so rambunctious. I'm like, okay, let's go out there. So we're walking, and we walk up to this area, and all of a sudden I hear these noises. And we're surrounded by silhouettes of monkeys all around us. It was crazy. Like I just see these silhouettes of these monkeys, and they're all just surrounding us. And then I go home and I release the video that announces that this book is going to be launched. So crazy. Even I'm saying it, it sounds so like the part of me that's a skeptic is like, what are you even talking about, Clint? Like there's still that part of me, but I saw it happen. Like here me and this miracle dog are walking right the night before, right like minutes before I'm going to launch the trailer of this video. And all of a sudden surrounded by these silhouettes of these monkeys. so crazy, you know, so beautiful. And that's the first time I've ever shared this story, but just because it fits with this context of Aditi Devo Bhava, you pay attention, and then all of a sudden life shows up differently around you. Like there's a different quality. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to share.
Wow, wow, that is so powerful. And we have a ton of people commenting saying amazing, um, and kidnapped Sita. I'm not sure what that means, but amazing. And then all these monkey pictures on Facebook. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And it's so deep. And if you weren't connected, you wouldn't have seen any of it. I think that's such a beautiful reminder to just be present and to, yeah, like so many other people would have lived it differently, I think. And being present and seeing the miracle. It's so beautiful. So we do have questions pouring in. I want to go deeper, but I'm also conscious of the time. And we do have some questions. Rusa is asking on the backstage area is honoring the divine in someone if I choose to stay away from someone who ill treats me?
Such a great question. Yeah, I would say the other person is irrelevant in a sense. Most important is what's happening inside of you. So that person is your teacher. Whether you let them in your life or you don't let them in your life, whether you keep distance or not, more important is what you do with you and with what's happening inside of you. And so what is that teacher giving you in this moment? What is their gift to you? And, you know, there's a Ho'opono prayer. This is a beautiful thing where you can take anyone in your life. Actually, one of my friends got put into prison. Like, she says it was wrongfully, and I actually believe her, but she was in prison. And she's like, why am I in prison? This isn't, she didn't use this terminology, but she's like, there must be something. And she saw she was putting herself in prisons. So then all of a sudden it's manifest around her. So she started doing this thing where even the guards were mean, the other prisoners were mean, but she would go and she would love them. Another person I talked to used this prayer, which is like, I love you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. Or no, I'd say, please forgive me. How does it go? Please forgive me. I'm sorry. What's it? What is it? How does it go?
I love you. The order can be switched around, but it's I love you. Thank you. Please forgive me. I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I love
you. Please forgive me.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. And so she would love people. And all of a sudden, things started to shift. Whoever was you don't even have to be with that person, but you can just speak this towards them. And things started changing. The guards actually started getting scared of her because she was so powerful, and everything started happening. If someone was mean to her, either they became nice or they just naturally became out of her life. The person who originally started this experiment or started doing it actually was in some kind of a unit where basically, without meeting the people, would just look at their case card and start saying this over and over again to them until they would meet them, and then a lot of the normal things would melt away. Yeah, so this is a really powerful thing. Even if you're not meeting with them, there's something inside of you it triggers. Some part of you you're not loving. There's some part of divinity in you that you are not loving, and this person is trying to show you that thing. And so learning to love that thing inside of you, loving you until you can totally love yourself in that way. And then either likely that person is just going to naturally go out of your life, or they're going to actually change, because your experience of them isn't who they are. You know, your experience of them is your experience of them.
Wow. Thank you so much, Clint. That's been so powerful. And I realize it's already 11:50 and we have in 10 minutes our group call starting. And we had said that we're going to talk about silence. And I just realized the time has gone by and we didn't talk about it. So tune in for next week. We'll definitely mention it then. You know, what it is to go into silence. This week's theme was about language. What about and using words? What about not using any words and going into retreat, going into silence? So we'll talk about that, promise, next week. And we have some amazing feedback Thank you so much, Clint, for sharing this with me. And then Nita is just wanting to say, what is that saying that Dr. Naram said about the honoring the God, that like every visitor is a God? Like, what's the, it's, how do you
Atiti
spell that?
Devo Bhava. A-T-I-T-H-I. So A-T-I-T-H-I, that's the first word. The second word is Devo, D-E-V-O. And the third word is Bhava. So B-H-A-W-A, Bhava. Atiti Devo Bhava.
Fantastic. So I put that on the Devo Bawa. Thank you so much, Amrita, for writing that on the back end as well. I put it on the Facebook. So any final thoughts, Clint, before we head to our support call?
I just feel inspired to just say, be gentle with yourself, everybody. You know, this is a big transition. This is a big thing happening for all of us. And just be gentle. And, you know, the more you can just forget, like, if, according to one spiritual tradition, the only thing we have to worry about in this life is just forgiveness. Like that's, if you only do that and you master that, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, you only have to master that, then, you know, but especially starting with yourself, just be gentle on yourself and forgive yourself. If there's something that you're holding against yourself from whatever time period that's like weighing you down, just, you know, you're amazing. And if you are a divine manifestation, which I believe you are, if you're a representation of divinity, then you're worthy. Your experience, your life, your worth is independent of what anyone else thinks of you, and also independent of what you think of yourself. Your worth is independent of what you think of yourself and what anyone else thinks of you. So just remember that. Be gentle on yourself, and see that you have nothing to prove, no one to impress. Just be you. Yeah, namaste.
Oh, namaste. That couldn't be truer. Thank you so much, Clint. Thank you for tuning in. And I will see some of you on the angel support calls that we have just coming up. And as always, every Saturday with Clint, we're here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much, Clint. This was so valuable. You're amazing. Thank you. Thanks, guys.